So, you know what really struck me in the interview that you gave with RT is that you just said you're going right back to Donbass. And I'm really, and so here you are, you're live, from Ukraine in this moment. You've just arrived, I assume, a few days ago, because I just saw you a few days ago on RT International. How are you feeling? And what was that first day out like for you?
Yeah, so I arrived, what day is today? Today's Sunday. I arrived late afternoon Friday. So, not much you can do that day. But yesterday I went out with a fellow journalist from RT, Roman Kosarov. He's, by the way, he's an excellent journalist. He's been here for most of the 8 years, and he's really courageous, very empathetic, humane journalist. And I would really encourage people to look up his reports. But we went, I'm just going to look at my phone so I don't mispronounce the area. Well, I don't want to say the exact area, because if I do, I worry that, repercussions.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. But we went to an area southwest of Donetsk, and it was, it's hard to estimate on the map. It was between 1 and 3 kilometers from Ukrainian forces. And the reason we went there is that he had heard there were around 50 or 60 elderly people that had no means of survival, that were essentially starving. So he wanted to bring humanitarian aid to them. And so it was, part of the route was quite risky because we were exposed to potential Ukrainian fire, mortar fire or whatever. And we arrived at a monastery in the area, and there were people taking shelter at that monastery, both people that actually lived at the monastery and people from the local region. And when we arrived, the shelling did start. And so we stayed there. We were there for a couple of hours talking with the people, but also waiting for the shelling to stop so that we could go on and find the elderly people and deliver their humanitarian aid. But in the end, we actually had to leave the aid with the people at the monastery so that they would deliver it later, because basically we learned that there was a Ukrainian drone and they had spotted us. So, it was stupid and foolhardy to try to continue on with that. So, I mean, that was my day yesterday. Thankfully, nobody was hurt, but there was that risk. And as you know, like RT crews have come under fire in recent weeks. Well, not just recently, anytime.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago, there was an RT and then some routers. I think someone got killed on routers. How are you feeling as far as I mean, the spirits of the people that you were talking to? What could you describe a little bit of what they're going through and how they're dealing with it emotionally? And here, he's posted up your tweet there so people, the audience, can see.
It's much like I lived for 3 years in Gaza, and the situation there is unimaginable. It's much like people in places like Gaza or Syria or I don't know, Yemen, but I have to imagine it would be the same. Places that have been bombarded for years and years, to the silence of the media. People are just getting by. Everything is normal. People don't flinch when they hear the bombs. I don't flinch when I hear the bombs, but people that live there, like, they're doing the motions of living, but it's there's no sugarcoating it. They're existing.
So is there infrastructure still in some of those areas, like for running water, electricity? Obviously, like where you are right now, there's internet or capability of some electricity, but is fresh water and food? You were mentioning they were having trouble getting food. Is that an issue?
Right, it is an issue. It is an issue in those areas. I mean, this was right on the front line with the Ukrainian forces. So I don't know how. I asked Roman, like, how are these people surviving? He said they're starving. I have to imagine that. I mean, there is goodwill amongst the communities. I have to imagine that other people in the region are helping them. Because I don't know. And in 2019, when I came here and I went to Gorlivka, which is north of here, which I do hope to go back to, and is being pounded. I was speaking with a couple of friends yesterday. And when I went to those areas on the front lines with Ukrainian forces, it was mainly elderly, and I have no idea how they were surviving. And it broke my heart speaking with them, because they're like, you can just imagine they're like your grandmother or something. And they had nowhere to go. They could not flee even if they wanted to. And I don't, like, they're existing. I really don't know how they're existing. Here in Donetsk, there's electricity, of course, but there are water cuts. So for like 8 hours, 9 hours a day, the water's off. It's manageable.
Oh, wow.
People people just fill up buckets of water or bathtubs if they can, and you know, just wait until the time when the water is flowing again. Actually, the place I was at yesterday, some man asked me if I had a power bank. So I went in my bag and I got the power bank, and then he said, "Can I keep it?" And I'm like, "Okay." You know,
Yeah.
like,
yeah,
they're replaceable. They're replaceable for us, but
Yeah.
in that situation, no. I mean, that could
Yeah.
be the whole community is using it. I don't know.
Oh, wow.